right, so we are going to figure out how to determine an endpoint if we have one endpoint in the midpoint. But before we do that, let me just review how you find the midpoint. So if I have 2 points here, A, B, and C, D, the midpoint, remember, is adding the x values and dividing by 2, adding the y values and dividing by 2. Essentially, you're finding the middle. That is your midpoint. So in this case, it would be A plus C over 2, comma, B plus D over 2. That would be your midpoint. So what happens if you know the midpoint, but you don't know an endpoint? So let me write this a different way. The x value of the midpoint, I'm going to put x with sub m, so we're going to call that the x value of the midpoint. So let's say that you have point A, which is at the coordinates -3, 2, and you have point B, which we don't know, and then you have point C, which is the midpoint. Point C is 0, 8, and that is our midpoint. So here is our segment AB. AC is congruent to CB, which means C is the midpoint. And we are trying to find the coordinates of B. So I'm going to call this XY. We do not know what the coordinates of B are. So again, remember this formula. We are still using the midpoint formula. It's just that we are working backwards. So now we know what X1 is. This is X1. We do not know what X2 is. This is X2. But we do know what XM is, which is 0. That is the X value of the midpoint. All right, so I'm going to plug into my formula. -3 plus X, that's my X2 that I don't know, over 2 equals 0. Okay, again, I have X1, I don't know X2, and this is my XM. Now, I'm algebraically going to solve this, which is going to look like me multiplying by 2 on both sides first. That's 2 over 2, which is 1, so now I have -3 plus X equals 0, because 0 times 2 is 0. Now I'm trying to get X by itself, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So X equals 3. So the X value of my endpoint is 3. Now I need to do the same for the Y. So for the Y, I'm going to say 2 plus Y over 2 equals 8. Again, this is where I'm getting this from. The Y value, Y1, I don't know Y2. And I do know the midpoint, Y value of the midpoint, which is 8. So again, now I'm going to solve this algebraically. I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. 2 over 2 is 1. 2 plus Y equals 16. Minus 2 from both sides, Y equals 14. So the endpoint, given that one endpoint is -3, 2 with a midpoint of 0, 8, the other endpoint that we're looking for would be 3, 14.